What's up, Savage Boss Babes and Dudes? It's Diana inside the Savage Studio once again with another fiery, and I'm talking spicy episode. This is episode number 2 of season number 2, and I'm really happy to be hosting today my next guest because, you might know her as Karlita Salsitas, but we're going to get to know Karlita Salsitas and Karla Padilla.
Eso.
Or Karla Padilla, a.k.a. Karlita Salsitas.
That's me.
What's up, girl? How you been? How you doing? Welcome.
Gracias por tenerme. Thank you for having me. I am doing so wonderful today. I had coffee at home. Unfortunately, I didn't come by the truck and get my Savage coffee.
Mañana.
Tomorrow, there's always another day.
Exactly. Oye, está muy buena la plática. I mean, we've been talking right before we hit record. I mean, we try to warm up and get everybody talking and flowing. And small business it's a very rewarding journey, but it's a rough journey too.
It's such a rough journey. I think it's so understated how difficult things can be. Like, you always think like, it's going to be so easy. Va a estar bien fácil. You're going to work for yourself. Girl, no.
You know what? I think that's the perfect icebreaker. Give me 1, 2, or maybe even 3 myths that you want to debunk right now.
Oh my God.
When it comes to small business or entrepreneurship. What are things that you hear and that you're like, really?
Yeah. Where you think like, voy a trabajar menos, like because I'm going to be working for myself, like, oh, I'm not going to work. I'm going to be able to make my own schedule, y que la tal, right?
Uh-huh.
Girl, no.
You leave.
You leave your 9 to 5 to work 24/7.
Hey, there's a trending audio right now. I'm on Instagram. Seriously, look it up.
We're going to have to do it. Oh man,
that's probably one of the biggest ones.
Literally.
Right?
And I'm sure you can relate to that as well. But definitely it takes me hours. I have to go to the store, pick out the best, produce, cook everything or prep everything, because I don't just cook it. I have to wash everything. I wash it in vinegar. I wash everything for at least 30 minutes and then rinse everything and then cook everything. And then I have to wait for it to cool down. I mean, it's a process.
Yeah.
But I guess another myth to kind of cut that off, or not to cut it off, but
continue.
The customer is not always right, which is
what?
Yes.
Take notes because Karlita Salsitas is educating us.
As a small business, the customer is not always right. In the sense, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but in the sense of like, if I'm telling you, and I've come to a point where I put it on my actual labels, like it has to be refrigerated. You have to shake it before you use it. Like actually telling somebody what they have to do. And then they're like, hey, my salsa went bad because I left it out all night. Can you replace it for me?
Wait, what?
Yeah. So in that sense, the customer is not right. I told you it needed to be refrigerated. Treat it like milk, right? You wouldn't leave your milk out in the truck overnight and then come in and serve it to your customers in the morning. The milk would go bad. And so I think in that sense, I've learned that the customer is not always right. You can't have a customer, and salsa's more expensive than it is in the store, but it's set at that price for a reason, right? And so the customer is not always right. I can't replace something that I gave you, because maybe you would go back to Walmart and say, hey, because I would never dog on HEB. I love me some HEB.
That is so anti-Texan, okay?
Yeah, you can't dog on HEB. But if you go to Walmart and you're like, hey, like, I left this out overnight, the manager would probably look at you and be like, well, whatever, we'll replace it because the customer is always right. And then give you another whatever you bought that was supposed to be refrigerated, So definitely the customer is not always right.
You just mentioned it, but do you ever get those, I wish I could buy your stuff, but you're too expensive?
Oh, yeah, all the time. And so I try to break it down for them. I'm like, look, this is what I do. It's just me doing everything. But I politely, when somebody says no, somebody else will say yes. And that's something I've also learned in this realm of business world. If somebody tells you no, and this isn't any opportunity that you're like scavenging through for life, somebody will tell you yes. Si se te cierra una puerta, se te va a abrir otra. There's always endless opportunity, and there's always customers that will. And if somebody tells me it's too expensive, unfortunately, that's the price that is set. Because you wouldn't walk into Louis Vuitton and say your purse is too expensive. It's set at $5,000 because of the caliber of quality, the things that they're providing, the
material,
the statue that it stands for. You wouldn't walk and be like, oh, this is too expensive, déjamela 3,000. No. Cuando entras, la compras y te haces y ahí andas mona con tu bolsa nueva.
Antes muerta que sencilla.
Antes muerta que sencilla. But literally, like, it's so sad that a lot of people don't treat the small businesses in the same sense. Like, we're not a flea market. We're not a garage sale. We're not, and I hope that I speak for everybody in this sense. Like, if you go to a market, because it's mostly what we do in the small business world, we set up these markets around town. It's hot. We're sweating. We have to unload all our stuff. After a whole day of prepping everything that we made to be there, whether you're making, and I'll use friends as reference. My friend Karen makes hats. She spends weeks on end painting on hats to prepare for the markets, loads everything into her car. Sometimes she even organizes the markets, has to like everything. My friend Nadia, she makes earrings. She spends countless hours making these earrings, has to go. And so it's not just, oh, I'm going to show up, lo voy a bajar, lo voy a vender y ya. And people are like, oh, well, that's too expensive. Well, you're at the wrong place, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that's that. So definitely there's so many ups and so many beauties to being a small business owner. But there are definitely a lot of downs. And I think that that's not talked about enough. We think that coming into it, it's going to be easy. We're going to make all this money. We're going to be our own boss. Everybody's going to love us. And in reality, it's not. It's like, te vas a fregar, te vas a chingar, you're going to spend more of your money than you're going to make sometimes. You're going to have to, and there's not a spreadsheet that says this is how you're going to get it done. You know?
Yeah.
It's like the community that we surround ourselves with. If I have a question related to small business, I'm sure that you would help me or somebody else would be willing to help me. Vice versa, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think that's something that really distinguishes the small business community here in San Antonio.
Absolutely.
That, yes, there are a few people who are not willing to share because, I mean, yeah, they do exist, but more than probably 90% of the community, of the small business community is willing to open up and be like, if you reach out to them, hey, tengo una idea, you know, ¿cómo le puedo hacer? ¿Cómo le empezaste tú? ¿Dónde iniciaste? Or, you know, and most of the time they're willing to help. When you began, did you have any issues of knowing where to start or how to start or dónde comenzar? ¿Tuviste a alguien que te ayudara o que te pudiera guiar?
So I did have a lot of help. Bastante ayuda. I'm very thankful for my circle of friends, my circle of family. I was actually like pushed and influenced to sell salsita.
Really?
Because I didn't ever think that I was going to sell salsa. I didn't wake up one day and I was like, oh, I'm going to start selling salsa. Like, I literally had no intention of selling salsas. And so I used to own a residential cleaning business. Yo limpiaba casas.
And this was your own business?
And I made really good money, yes.
Did you have employees under you or it was just you?
Just me. There was a time that, like, I had, like, 2 if I needed help. And then it came down to 1. And then I slowly started to, like, push clients to other people. And I started to let go of the business. But I mean, I made really good money. Charged, you know, anywhere from $100 to $300 for a house, and I'd be done in like 4 or 5 hours. So, you know, and 5 times a week, you do the math real quick, and you get to a good amount of money.
Oye, pues está llena de talentos.
Oh,
that's a whole talent in itself. Cleaning.
But I would always make salsa, right? Just for me at home, for que digas tú, vente una carne asada, pues tráete la salsa. And I'd be like, okay, yo hacía la salsita y me la llevaba.
You were the go-to girl.
Yeah, I was the plug. I was the salsa plug. They're like, tráemela. So yo llevaba la salsa y entonces, I had a few people tell me like to sell it. A few people in my life, but there was one person and she will never let me forget this. It's my partner's stepmom. She's like, you better sell this or sell me the recipe and I'll sell it. Like very like, she's like, you need to start this. And then after that one conversation, you know, because even though
she planted the seed.
Literally, even though numerous people had mentioned it, I think the way that she portrayed it was very like, no, pues ponte las pilas, you know, ponte las pilas y hazlo. And so when I started with little jars like this for reference, and they were $7. And I didn't know, that's one thing I didn't know. I didn't know how to price anything. I didn't know what my profit margin was. I didn't know.
You started with no business plan.
No
because
business
that's like the first thing I get asked.
I was like,
all the time. So, do you have a business plan? And I'm just like,
Sabe rico. Sabe rico.
Sabe rico.
It's really good. Not to toot my own horn, but if I didn't make it, I would buy it if somebody was selling it to me. But no, I had no business plan. I was like, ni modo.
Okay, so you were buying $7 jars.
I was buying them at Dollar Tree at the time. So I was paying $1 plus tax per jar. And so then on top of the produce for each jar, on top of the time making it, I was like, no, pues no le saco nada. And I got really like discouraged. I'm like, no, pues pa qué?
No.
Like, this isn't for me. And this was 2 years ago. Literally in August, like August 14th was my first batch of salsitas that I sold. August 14th, 2020.
And who did those salsitas go to? Like, who did you sell them to?
Well, I was on my personal Instagram and I posted a jar. I had no stickers yet. I had no logo, no stickers. Mind you, no business plan, no intention of doing this. I was just like backyard selling it.
Just took a picture and uploaded it?
I took a picture of a bowl and I was like, I'm making homemade salsa if anybody wants it. They're $7, and if you buy the $7 jar, I'll give you a bag of chips. And they were in Ziploc bags.
Oh, okay.
Very, very, very backyard. Y me contestaron como 10 personas, like friends, and mind you, it was like the middle of the pandemic. Well, not the middle, kind of maybe towards the end, August, no? Because it started like in March.
In March, yeah, it started in March.
So, and I was still cleaning people's houses at this time. So in March, it started. So in August, I'm like, well, let me post it on my own page, a ver qué. And people responded. They're like, yeah, I'll come by and buy it. And I was like, estos locos van a venir a mi casa and there's literally COVID around. Like, ¿cómo se atreven?
Wait a minute.
¿Cómo se atreven? And I did. I sold it for $7. Like,
would you put it in a bag, run it out outside, and then run back inside, and they would pick it up?
And I didn't have my little like bags that said thank you. Like, it was an HEB bag. Because I love me some HEB. It was HEB bag.
Shout out to HEB. What up, HEB? We're looking for patrocinadores.
Not sponsored yet. Sponsor us.
Soon to be.
But I would put it inside HEB bag with the little jar and the little Ziploc bag of chips. Y te digo,
you get started with what you can.
Literally.
With what you have. And you get creative.
Literally. And I think that's a big tip for anyone. Like, you don't need this lavish business plan. You don't need
to invest
literally
a lot of money,
thousands of dollars. Like, it'll come and you will learn as you go. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I've had, like, throughout this whole journey.
That is such an important point,
because
I think that's going to help a lot of people.
Literally, a veces
because
like,
that's
it does come
easy,
but
that's
not
probably
everything.
One of the biggest crutches that I hear that people use as an excuse to not go for it,
because I don't have everything yet.
Yeah.
Because
or
I don't
have
know
the money. I don't have any money.
Yeah.
I don't have any money.
And you're not going to have any money unless you spend the little bit of money you have, and then you're not going to be successful unless you try. So that's,
there you go.
Literally, stop.
He dicho.
Don't be fearful of the future, because the time will pass anyway. Literally.
So you start with these salsitas. People start asking you, DMing you, messaging you,
and then I get to a point where, and I have a picture I'll have to show you after. I was living before we moved into our home. We were living in an apartment, and I had about like 40 little jars, just all red, because that's the only thing I had.
You started with one,
just the red salsita. Yeah.
Okay,
and so I had all the red salsitas. And I took like a selfie because I was so proud in that moment. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, mind you, they're still $7 at the time. And I'm like so proud. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
I created all these.
I created this. Like, I
created salsa.
Yeah. Voila. Y dije, sí me dio como bastante sentimiento de que tanta gente quisiera lo que yo estaba haciendo. Like, it does bring a warm feeling. Mm-hmm. And I think I worked probably like 30 something hours on just those little. I didn't know how to be efficient at the time either. I think now I have a rhythm and motion of the ocean, and ya sé lo que estoy haciendo. But yeah, I took a picture and I was so thankful. All those salsitas. Then I had the red one, right? Then I think about like a year into it, I made the verde, and then I actually had customers that pushed me to make the aguacate one, because I had, mind you, again, like cuando empecé. No tenía ni plan, ni cómo, ni cuándo, ni inspiración sola, right? So it went from this, everybody loving it. Well, what else do you have? Do you make anything else? And I'm like, well, I do make a green salsa, but I don't know if it's like the greatest. And so the first time I sold it, it wasn't like a hit. Okay. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't that great. I need to work on it. And then I mastered this recipe. And then I think I made this one for about like, the aguacate one for about like 4 months before I even put it on the menu because no me salía. And I'd be like, no, this isn't good enough. And I think we're our hardest critics. That's another thing. Yeah. Like, we're our hardest critics. I'm sure when you're making a coffee, you're like, no, pues no sabe rico, pero like it's missing something. You add a little something or you add a little something else. Ya te sale. And you're like, okay, now I can put it on the menu.
So the red one is the original one.
La original.
La original. Who taught you how to make it? Did you teach yourself? Or?
My grandma. Oh, que en paz descanse. So my grandma taught me. My mom, I would see these ladies like bite raw jalapenos and I'd be like, what is wrong with y'all? Do you do that?
I am not one of those, but I have seen people and I'm just like...
Y la cultura de nosotros, nada les pica.
No.
Todas mis tías, no, mija, está bien rica tu salsa, pero no, hombre, no pica. I'm like, well, if you want something else to burn, girl, then you need to add some chile in there yourself.
Yeah, no, I am not. I like spicy salsa, but not like burn your tongue.
Yeah, literally.
Make your stomach hurt and probably have issues when you go to the restroom type of salsa.
So when I was taught how to make the original, it was all chile. Like literally, and it wasn't even, my grandma didn't put jalapenos in it, and I do. It was all serrano peppers. And she would even throw like a chile piquin or two in there.
Okay. And no tomatoes?
Well, yeah, the tomatoes. Okay. But I'm saying like, as far as, but like 7 chiles y un tomate, pues ¿pa qué le pones el tomate?
Yeah.
So, and then, her salt and her whatever spices she was throwing in there. And I'm like, okay, this tastes really good, but my mouth's on fire. So I started tweaking it, and I'm like, how can I make it my own?
How spicy?
How spicy can I tolerate it, right? No, really, that's what started is I wanted to, because de chiquita yo no comía salsa ni chile ni nada. But I was like, well, everybody seems to really enjoy it, so let me try to make something. So I started tweaking, and I mean, this is like in my teen years, into my early 20s. I started tweaking it, and I was like, oh, this is really good. And that's why it started with the tráelo pa la fiesta and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, so the recipe itself and what the flavors that are in there came from my grandma. I took out some, added some, and then definitely added some more tomatoes because, girl, it was just not it. It was too spicy. Mm-hmm. So that's where that one came from. And then these two, I pulled from this recipe and switched the tomatoes in this one to tomatillos. I'm all giving all the secrets out. And then for the aguacate one, instead of the tomatillo, I mean, it's still like the base of the verde, and then it has aguacate and limon.
Avocate or avocado?
Avocado. Yeah.
So you have you're doing good with this cleaning business. You're making good money and everything.
Even during the pandemic, like people were, I think even more so, people were like, pues ven and disinfect my house.
Okay. What made you shy away from that?
I was so tired.
Turn to salsas.
I was so tired.
Or or just decide that it was time to go a different route.
So even though I was working on my own, I guess, terms, I still wasn't working on my own terms. I was still working for my client. And so that's not what I wanted to do. And it brought me joy to leave somebody's home and for it to be sparkling. And but at the end of the day, it's not what I wanted to do. I did it because it was easy. I have a son. At the time, I was single. I was a single mom. It was easy for me to do that without, I have like some college, but it was easy for me to do that and make good money and still be able to drop my son off at school, pick him up, and not miss that time with him. But I wasn't working for myself. I was still working for my clients. And I think I just wanted something that offered me the ability to do everything I needed to do just for me. Definitely for my customers to provide something delicious, but to not have to work for somebody. So that I started shying away from that in that sense. Like if I'm ever going to do something on my own, it needs to be me on my own, not for someone else.
What did your family say or the people surrounding you when you were like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be cleaning houses anymore and I'm going to go a completely different route.
What's sad is I have had more friends and strangers purchase Salsita than family members. Girl,
That's usually
how
it
the truth.
happens.
That's usually the truth, and it's
Let
sad.
me tell you.
Pero gente, hagan caso. Support your family members before you go buy jabón de quién sabe quién. Literally, like, I kid you not. It's so sad, and it's primarily in the Hispanic culture.
Yeah.
Que así nos tratamos. Ay, que estoy enojada con la tía, o que no sé qué. Ay, ya viste que la Karla anda haciendo salsas. A ver cómo le va. Mm-hmm. Why are we like that? Why? You know, that's another big topic. Breaking generational curses. Because, girl.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my family in that sense, some of them were very supportive. Some of them were like, I'm so excited for you. A ver que te vaya muy bien. Voy a orar por ti. And some other family members and friends were just kind of like, well, that's really strange. Why are you going to do that? At the end of the day, do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. And that's my biggest, like, every day. Do it for you. Find your why, find your reason, and follow that. Whatever you decide to pick up. If you're great with the camera and you're great at taking pictures, start off with little sessions and, you know, giving out free sessions to family members or friends that would be appreciative, and use that as like your portfolio. Anything, right? Like, just go for it. Find your reason, find your why. And my biggest why is my family, my immediate family. I want to be able to one day be inside a store, God willing, to where my product is being sold to thousands of people.
And you mentioned that in the early stages, you got to the point where you were making these salsitas and everything, but you realized you're not making any money.
No.
You're not very organized. You don't know what you're doing.
No money.
How do you get over that? How did you get over that stump?
A lot of Google.
Okay.
There's a lot of information if you really want to find it. There's a lot of information if you're willing to put in the work, you'll find that information. Talk to people. Most of the time, successful people will talk to you. I think we're just afraid to approach these people, and
it can be intimidating.
It can be intimidating. I was a little intimidated just coming here today.
Aw, girl.
I'm like, how am I gonna sound? Am I gonna be terrible? But yeah, it can be intimidating. But I don't know if I said this, but if one door is closed, another will open. If somebody tells you no, somebody will tell you yes. So even if you ask a successful person, like, hey, ¿me ayudas? Que te puedo preguntar tal y tal? And they're like, oh no, I don't have any time. There are a lot of successful people. And if you look, you will find them. So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of Googling. I'm thankful to be surrounded by a lot of business owners, especially in my immediate family. So I'm like, hey, I don't know how I'm supposed to register for my tax ID. I had no idea how to do that. Like, to me, income tax was like, back to the Hispanic culture. Like, to me, when I was a kid, I heard income tax and I was like, oh, my mom has money. Like, sorry, mom.
We're going shopping.
Hey, the beginning of the year was always great for us. I learned a lot, and I went through a lot of weird scenarios where I didn't know what a tax ID was. I didn't know that I had to pay taxes. I didn't know that I had to register with the IRS. And all of this was asking people, and then, God willing, they were like willing to give me some answers. A lot of Googling. So definitely just, it's not easy. That's a big, super big, yeah, you're going to just be your own boss. But no, like, you're your own boss. Now you got to figure it all out. But ask people.
So this starts taking off. You start receiving orders, mostly through social media?
All through social media.
Okay.
I didn't do a market until like mid 2021, maybe late 2021. So I think it went a whole year where it was just social media, word of mouth, people, and it was still just the original. So people just telling people what they had and how good it was and that they should try it.
How did you get to that point of deciding, okay, the markets, who told you about it? How did you find out?
So I think I was like about a year into the business at this point. So late 2021. And I went to a market at the ¿Cómo se llamaba?
St. Paul.
St. Paul Square. Ese pop-up market.
Esa
mera. So I went there and I was like, this is cool. I think I could do this. And I think I talked to a few family friends. I don't know. A veces they say not to tell people your goals and your dreams, pero yo soy bien de, ¿qué piensas? What do you think? And I'm definitely, my love language is like, ¿cómo se dice? Words of affirmation.
Ándale.
Like, recuérdame que me quieres. But I was like, what do y'all think? You think I can do this? And I didn't have a canopy. I didn't have a table. I didn't know left from right to markets. So I'd been on social media for a year selling salsitas to just people I know, people that were referred to me by the people that I know. And then I'm like, okay, well, I followed them on Instagram and then I filled out their application and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And the saddest thing happened to me when I was there, and I'll get to that.
That was your first experience?
My first market experience was at the pop-up. And they're great host. Had a wonderful time. I haven't been back since, but it's not because of anything they did. But so I signed up for their market. I'm super excited. One thing that I've had to learn through doing markets, especially with perishable items, is how many to take. Because I can take, for example, 20 of each, and I only sell 10 of each. And now I'm going home with 30 salsitas. And that's just an insane amount of salsitas to have on hand. And I only have like 2 or 3 days max to still sell it as a fresh salsita. That's why when you go to HEB and it's like 50% off, because it's probably like 4 or 5 days old.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn that. That's another big, I can't just put it in a box and sell it at the next market. So that was my first market. And I liked it. I was like, I like this. I met a lot of cool people. I sold a lot of salsitas.
What was your display like? Because you said you didn't have a canopy.
I borrowed. So I told them I didn't have a canopy, and thankfully they had a position like two of the spots were like right under, no sé cómo se dice. I don't know. They were under like a covered area.
Okay.
And so they put you there. Yeah, they put me there, and I borrowed a table from a family member, and I put a mantel on it, and I was like, well, I'm just going to put all the jars on the table. This is what I'm selling. And I had a bowl of chips with pinzas and little napkins. And I was like, you can try it like this.
Okay.
I didn't know how it was going to. Now I have like little bowls, like the little plate bowls, and I fill a chip, and I put the squeeze bottles, and I'm like, have at
Help
it. Help yourself. The whole bowl's for you to enjoy. Like I'm to a point where I'm like, here are 5 chips for you to actually try what you're gonna buy.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't know what I was doing, and I sometimes still don't know what I'm doing, which is
you just roll with the punches.
You just roll with it. But when I got to the market, sad story. I got to the market and I had put in the back of the SUV. I put the ice chest full of salsitas, and when I got there, I was unloading, and some ice chests have wheels.
Oh, yeah.
So I opened the trunk, and it wheeled out upside down, and they're glass jars. And I kid you not, like 14 salsitas all on the floor, broken glass. I mean, like a blob of salsa, like if I had poured a blender down on top of this. And I'm crying, and I'm like, oh my God. And it's one of those like, estoy sola. It's my first time. So man, I'm only saying this sad story, right? For other small business owners to know, like, it's not always going to go smooth.
Yeah. And don't let that discourage you.
And don't let that, exactly. Que no dejes que te traiga para abajo. Because honestly, like
shit happens.
Shit happens. They like a few small business owners like ran with napkins, and they were like, we'll help you pick it up. And mind you, everybody's setting up.
Yeah.
But man, whoever these people are, if you're listening to this podcast, God bless you. Thank you for helping me that day. And then my partner came, like I called him, and I was like crying, and he's like, I'm on my way. Like, don't worry. He's like, I'll be there in a little bit. And then he ended up staying with me. He sold the first salsa.
Really?
And he'll never let me live it down. And but yeah, man, no matter what happens. So then from that, I think I ventured out, and I was like, okay, I'm comfortable. I'll start doing some more markets. And so I've done a few since then. But it's still something I'm not 100% comfortable with yet.
Okay.
And I will just say, even though I'm not 100% comfortable with it, I still do it. Because if we stay in our comfort zone, then we'll never grow.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Can't stay in your comfort zone.
What do you think has been probably the biggest lesson that you've learned out of this whole experience so far?
Oh, man. The biggest lesson? Oh, I bastantes.
Or give me your top 2, 3, 4, or whatever.
Lessons. It's not easy. It's not easy. I think the biggest lesson is it's not easy. Every day you have to work at it. Whether it's 10 minutes of your day or 10 hours of your day, you have to do something every day just to strive and move forward. And you can't get lazy. And I think there have been times in my business journey that I've gotten lazy, and you can tell by the amount of like profit I'm making, by the amount of like, and not to say that followers matter, but the amount of like new followers or how my business page is growing. Or
do you think were you going through something? Was there a situation at that point in your life where and you felt like maybe you took it out on your performance?
Not at all. I think overall I'm a very happy, outgoing person. I think sometimes because you're your own boss, that's a big lesson. Because you're your own boss, nobody's going to wake you up in the morning to go do it.
Is it that you get too comfortable?
I think that's what it is. Comfort. And that's another the reason why I'm pushing myself to do these markets is because it's that comfortness. Like, pues estoy en mi casa, vienen aquí a recoger la salsa. Like, well, there are so many other people that have to try it and learn like what I'm doing. And that's why I continue to push for the markets. But yeah, definitely the huge lesson is like to not puddle yourself in that comfort. No te agüites, échale ganas. And I'll speak for myself because it's happened to me. I'm at a point now where I'm like, con ganas, échale. But I've definitely gone and poured myself in that puddle and had to wallow my way out.
How many hats do you wear in your business?
Oh man, like 15. all while being a housewife and a mom and you know, you do your social media content, you do your marketing.
So you're a content creator,
marketing. I'm my own management. Levántate, clock in. I'm the cook.
There you go.
I'm the labeler, the designer. I did pay somebody to create my actual like face. Like she drew it for me. Trinity Art. Her name's Trinity. She's super sweet. But everything else, like,
when did you start labeling your salsitas? Because you said that you first started without a sticker, without a label or anything.
No, I went to Amazon and I had little brown stickers that said, "Thank you for supporting my small business." They were cute. Yeah. But it wasn't like,
it wasn't Karlita Salsitas.
No, I want to be like Aunt Jemima. Like when you see the pancake box, you're like, oh, those pancakes are good.
Yeah.
Like I want to be like, oh, that's Karlita Salsitas. Like that's Karla. That's good. And I know it's like kind of random to put your face on something, but that's what I wanted. That's what I was like, this is what I'm selling. It's me making it. That's what I want. I'm
glad that you brought that up because I was just going to ask you, how important is branding your business, your products?
It's super important. If you put a blue sticker on something that just says thank you, that person's not going to remember you. Mm-hmm. You can definitely put it on your bag, like thank you, or put it on a sticker or give them a thank you sticker. But I think it's super important to brand and create a staple, a recognizable staple for your business. If I saw a pair of lips that said Savage anywhere, or if I saw a pair of lips anywhere like that said Savage, I'd be like, oh, I know exactly what that is, because it's such a captivating image that symbolizes just your business. And so that's what it was. I was like, I want to be the face of my business, literally. And so I talked to Trin and I was like, hey girl, can you draw me? She was like, sure. And she drew me, and originally it was like this with a little orange background, and then I went to a straight white background so it would look cleaner. And then I was like, pero soy mexicana. Like at the end of the day, I'm selling Mexican salsa. So I was like, no, I'm going to try to root more towards my culture. And so then I added the serrape background, and I've stuck with that. I really like it. I tried for a little bit to make like an entire label with all the ingredients and the details, but I don't know.
You're like, I'm still not at that point. It's a work in progress.
It was a DJ. But yeah, it's super important to brand and even if you have to spend a little bit of money, it'll be so worth it in the long run, because that's literally the first thing somebody will see when they look at your product.
Mm-hmm. And then when you get those shares on social media, this morning I threw on some salsita on my meal prep.
So good.
And the sticker right away, you don't necessarily look at the salsa. Yeah, you know it's salsa, but the sticker, that's Karlita salsa.
Yeah.
Let me go look her up on Instagram. Let me see what she's about.
Yeah.
Right?
Instagram and Facebook.
In my own experience, when I first started my business, I went around to local coffee shops, coffee trailers to check out, not to necessarily, make it clear, not to copy anybody, but I just wanted to see, because I was in that process of what you mentioned earlier, of not knowing what I was doing. So I was trying to see what everybody else was doing and how they were doing it and how they were getting stuff done. So I would go around, and I noticed with several places that I visited that I would just get an iced coffee, and it was just inside of a plastic cup with a lid and a straw. And I would go to post it on social media, and it just looked like just a cup with coffee.
Yeah, even McDonald's, big ol' M. Yes. McDonald's, you won't deny that that's where you got the coffee, right?
Yes. So let's make it. And I remember that I told myself I have to create something that I have to put on every single coffee that I sell, that when somebody takes the Instagram picture, post me on Facebook, that people are going to be attracted first with eyesight to that brand and look me up and find out what I'm about. Yeah. So I think that branding plays a huge part.
Yeah. Do your branding, guys. Do your branding.
Do your homework and work on your branding. You mentioned earlier, and I know that you said, we were laughing about it and joking about it, but I mean, it's no joke. What do you foresee for the future for Karlitas Salsitas?
I want to be inside HEB.
There you go, HEB.
I could cry. Oh man, I love HEB. I don't shop.
HEB makes it happen for so many Texans.
Literally.
Please make it happen for this girl right here.
Yeah, and right now, and I think that obviously, like, through a business plan and through moving forward, it would come to a different set price. But I think I know that's definitely my goal, is to be inside of HEB, and you walk in and you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to put on my dinner tonight. I know exactly what I'm going to put on my huevos in the morning, and I know exactly where I can get it, and it's always available to me. Because as much as I love to do this, and I will obviously continue to do this, but in a different perspective, hopefully at that point, I can't imagine doing this for 20 years, like in me and my cocinita. I got big goals, I got big dreams, and again, if somebody says no, somebody will say yes, and just got to keep trying. Have you done any research or looked into what does it take to get my products into a storefront like that? I have, and then also HEB does this thing called Quest for Texas Best.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, and so you can, and even like with your coffee, like let's say you decided to bottle it, and then you could be like Savage Coffee inside of HEB, like in the cold section, ready to go in the morning.
Now, is that a contest, or is that something that they open up?
It's a contest, okay. Yeah, and so you submit a video and you tell them about yourself and whatnot. But I mean, like thousands and thousands of people are doing this. And so...
Have you done it yet?
Yeah, so I did at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
But I don't think anything happened. But hey, it's okay, because I'm going to try again next year.
I was just going to say, there's always next year.
And also, you can definitely like go to... I don't know how... If you have to set an appointment or what, and that's something that I'm going to try to figure out, because I'm at a point where I would have found out by like maybe now or yesterday or tomorrow kind of time frame. And so I'm like, okay, maybe it's not happening for me this year. So I'm at a point where I'm doing some research to find out if I can set an appointment with somebody and, present them my business plan, present them with my product and say, this is what I would like to do. Is this something that you guys are interested in? And again, if they say no, Texas Quest for Best is at the beginning of next year, I'm going to submit a different video. I'm going to submit a different application, same product. Just got to keep trying. But that's definitely the ultimate goal, is to be on the shelves inside HEB, so everybody all over Texas can come in and say, that's what I'm getting. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to put the best of the salsas out there on my food.
What have you learned about yourself? What can you say? What's the one thing that a couple of years ago when you started this, you said, ay, no sé. ¿Le entro o no le entro? What have you learned about yourself?
I've learned that I wasn't patient. I'm not a very patient person. And I think I've learned how to be patient all around in my life. I think I was very impatient. I think we live in a very now world. Like, we have our cell phones. I can just look it up. I have the corner right here. I have this at the corner. I can just go grab it. We live in a today, right now kind of moment world as a society. And I think the biggest thing I've learned about myself is how to be patient. I've learned to just have patience, because when you have a small business, sometimes, man, I've seen some people with small businesses, they take off. I mean, like 40,000 followers on Instagram.
And that can be so discouraging, right?
Literally.
If it's not happening to you.
Yeah, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? How
what
am I not
missing?
Yeah, what am I missing?
They don't like me.
Yeah. It can be very discouraging. And so I think the biggest thing I've learned, man, is just to be patient with yourself. Being patient with myself for sure is the biggest thing I've learned. But be patient with my business. It's going to happen. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, it'll happen the next day.
What would you tell yourself right now if you could go back to those days, to those early days?
Oh, not cry so much.
Llorona.
I'm a very sensitive person, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's frowned upon, but to not beat myself up, in other words, to not beat myself up so much. Like, I was very, very hard on myself in the sense of like, not having any clue. I didn't know where I was going to get jars at a cheaper price. And I would be like, oh, I'm going to always have to pay this much for them. Like, beating myself up, being hard on myself, which in a way can be good because you're motivating yourself, but it can also be one of your biggest downfalls because you're not, no estás creciendo, te sientes como, ugh. And if everything's then what's wow? So I would tell myself to not be so hard on myself, to go easy, to be kind to myself.
Yo sé que hay muchas personas que nos están mirando que también quizás han tenido ese deseo. ¿Tienen alguna idea?
Sí.
¿Algún talento?
Do it.
¿Algún talento que quizás tienen miedo de utilizar porque dicen, ay, no, es que no les va a gustar, no me lo van a comprar, no tengo el dinero para comenzar? ¿Qué les dirías tú a esas personas que quizás también quisieran incursionar en lo que es tener un negocio propio?
No tienes que saber todo para empezar. Solamente tienes que empezar.
Number one.
No lo tienes que saber todo, pero lo tienes que hacer.
¿Cómo le hacemos para no desanimarnos? O para volver a animarnos cuando caes en ese tiempo de desánimo. Porque todo lo pasamos.
Sí.
All small business owners have those days. Sometimes it could be a week. Sometimes it could be a month, especially during those slow times where you feel very discouraged and you feel like throwing in the towel and you start questioning yourself. You start questioning your product. You start questioning your sometimes your own existence.
Literally. Para mí personalmente, veo las cuentas de otras personas que tienen negocios pequeños. Digo, a ver, ¿qué están haciendo ellos? O ¿por qué? Like, what did they post? Or what are they doing? Okay, ellos le siguen echando ganas. To follow a community and follow peers and see what they're doing. If I'm like really discouraged, si no le estoy echando ganas, me siento bien así de que no quiero. I definitely motivate myself by other people's motivation and success. Whatever avenue of business they do. Lo que sea lo que estén haciendo, de cualquier negocio que hagan, sí me fijo a veces sí digo, déjame to pull inspiration from these people. In a positive sense. Like if I feel rutted and down and I have no motivation, si me siento agitada and I'm like, ya no quiero, I definitely, look at other people. I don't know. It works for me. I'm like, damn, she's doing real good. I could do it. Okay, let's go. Or damn, he's doing real good. A él sí le va bien. Y luego miro, no, pues todos los días está poniendo algo. Y pues claro que le va a ir bien porque le está echando ganas. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, let's go, girl.
Karla, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this, for sharing, for opening your heart to us and sharing your experience, your knowledge. Eres bella por fuera y por dentro. Te deseo todo el éxito. Yo sé que pronto, especialmente porque vamos a poner esto en redes sociales y se va a hacer viral y HEB nos va a empezar a seguir y we're going to tag them and hey, we're going to make it happen.
Yes, we are. No, pues, thank you so much for having me, Diana. I've had such a beautiful time. I can't wait to be back. And yeah, follow Savage and follow Karlitas Salsitas, you guys.
For anybody who wants to purchase, who wants to follow you, who wants to check out your products, what are your social media handles, markets? Where do we find out where to find you?
Awesome. So on my Instagram page and on my Facebook page, it's both at and then Karlita with the K, Karlitas, and then Salsitas. So the word salsa, cute, Salsitas. And that's on Instagram and Facebook. And then on my Instagram page, I have like frequently asked questions. I post when I'm going to be having markets. I have a monthly schedule, which designates like which days you can purchase, when is pickup, and so forth. So it's very self-explanatory on the page. But as a small business owner, I answer every direct message.
Thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in, for listening. Please subscribe to the Savage Podcast. Please share on your social media. This episode was brought to you by Savage Coffee, located at 12221 Alamo Ranch Parkway.